Hi there, it's Liane, and today I'm going to show you how to make an iris fold card. This is using strips of different colours of paper. You get lots of different shapes of iris fold cards. We're going to start with the simple shape of a square to learn the technique. I hope you enjoy the project. So for the iris fold project, we've got a template that's printed out. This one is just a simple square. You get a lot of different types of shapes, but the square has been divided up into different sections, and this will be the guide for where we're going to lay the paper. The only thing we need to trace at the moment is just the outline of the shape. So already traced that out, so just lay the tracing paper onto the card. So just lay the tracing paper onto the template. You can either use a ruler. It might be helpful to mask and tape the tracing paper down. And yeah, freehand sketch or use a ruler to trace that exact outline. If you start to do more complicated iris fold shapes, sometimes you need to do the mirror image, such as letters. You would actually reverse the image, but this one, because it's a symmetrical shape, all we need to do is trace the outline once. So I'm now going to take the card and I'm going to open the inside of the card, and I've already laid this out, but what we're going to do is the side of tracing paper that's got the pencil on it, we put that face down on the inside of the card. So the card's going to open like that and it's face down on the inside. Again, I would apply a little bit of masking tape to make sure that it doesn't move. It's quite important here as well to think about where you are laying the card. So I've tried to keep an even distance between both sides and the top, and then I've left an extra space here so you could always stick a greeting on there. So to get the paper to transfer, to get the line to transfer, I'm going to just lay that face down and rub the pencil over. No need to use a ruler. And that will transfer to the card. Is now ready to cut out this shape to make a window for the iris fold. So specifically for this square shape, what I found helpful to do to get nice sharp corners was to cut small L shapes on the corner first without using a ruler. And this makes it easier because it's quite difficult to use the ruler all the way along to the ends and stop at the right place, and this you automatically will stop at the right place because you can see better. So they've got little cuts in the corners now. I'm now going to take the ruler. Metal ruler is best because it's no risk of cutting it with the blade. Working on a cutting mat or cardboard is good to pad out the table, and I'm just going to cut along the trace lines. And I'm just joining up those L-shaped corners. So stopping slightly before the end each time. easily now. Just any little extra bits like that, you can just trim them to neaten them off. And now you've got the window ready for the iris fold. So at this point, this is optional, but what I like to do is add a metallic border around the card, and it just frames it. You could do it in a contrasting colour pen, or I'm going to use a bronze metallic pen. I'm going to use the ruler to keep it neat. And just work my way around. Quite hard to see, but it just gives it a little metallic frame. Okay, so now we're ready to start putting the paper strips. So I'm going to put the template flat on the desk. I'm going to take this card and the side with the shiny border, I'm going to put that face down, so you're actually working from the back of the iris fold card. And again, I'm just going to secure that with a little bit of masking tape to make sure that it doesn't move from the pattern, because we want to stick quite closely to these lines. So the way the iris fold works is you have 4 different colours, or if you've got alternating shapes and the colours won't touch, you can use the same colour twice. So if you have a square in the centre, it's 4 different colours. If you have a triangle in the centre, 3 different colours, etc. So for A, I'm going to use pink. For B, I'm going to use yellow. C, I'm going to use blue. And D, because it's not touching B, I'm going to use yellow paper. You can cut the strips of paper, or these are actually paper streamers, like decorative paper chains, so they're quite useful to use. They measure about 2 centimetres, so to get a nice neat edge on them, I'm going to start with the pink one, and I've just put a crease in the paper. If it's quite wide paper and it's narrower strips, you can fold the paper in half, but what we need to make sure is that the paper is completely covering the edge and going right up to this line. So I'm going to lay the first strip down, and the neat folded edge is going towards the pattern. I'm going to trim a little bit of extra, so it's just slightly overlapping onto the card. And then I'm going to apply 3 bits of masking tape. I'm going to have 1 in the centre and 1 at each end. So I'm making sure that the paper streamer sits nice and flat against the card. So that's the first one done. That was lining up with 1A. So now I'm going to look for the next number, and this is 2B down here. So 2 is the second one I'm going to do, and B, the colour I'm using, is yellow. So again, I've folded an edge here, and lay it on the top of the window. Just measure after I've lined up that folded edge with the line on the pattern, and add the masking tape. The next one is blue. So this is working around in anti-clockwise direction, and it's really important to do the alternate colours, because it's the way that the colours overlap that gives that nice pattern at the end of the project. So now I'm going to 4D, back to the yellow, or if you're using a different colour. So this strip that I've folded here, I'm not going to use that one because there's a little gap there. So this is quite a wide strip and I've cut the card a little bit wide. So I'm just going to fold a tiny bit over at the edge to keep the strip as wide as possible. And that is going to cover everything. I'm not going to leave any gaps. So the way I cut the masking tape, because I've run out of small strips, is I just cut really small strips. Because the more tape you use, it can get quite bulky at the back of the card. We want to keep it as flat as possible. So that's the initial 4 colours laid down, and we can't see the front because it's laid face down, but that is what it would look like. If at this stage you want to just peel the tape off and check the card, that could be a good idea to make sure that everything's working as it should. Otherwise we just carry on and we're back to the start colour 5A, so I'm back on the pink, and I just again line up the folded edge, trim to the shape, and then stick that one down as well. And keep going round and round until you get to the centre blank space. So this is what the card will look like once we've worked all the way around. So you can see it's quite a lot of tape, a lot of layers, and it's raised up. So the final step is the blank space in the middle, and that's the iris of the card. So I've chosen like a shiny piece of card because that's going to draw your eye into the centre. Quite often you'll see iris fold cards have something sparkly or hologram paper or foil paper. So I've just put masking tape along the 4 corners, check that it was the right kind of size, and then I'll just lay that over. It's the final step. Okay, so now I'm ready to take this off the pattern. This is the moment where we see if everything's worked. Okay, so the pattern's all there. So to cover this up, what I usually do is take a spare card and just cut it in half, and then using double-sided tape, just tape along the edges, and I'm going to peel that off and stick it down to the back to hide all of the paper and tape. So I'm going to line that up with the spine of the card and make sure that it's not overlapping too much. You can always trim it if it does overlap. And just press it down as flat as possible. So that looks much nicer and is ready to send. So that's the finished iris fold card. So this is the finished card. I hope you enjoyed the project. There are loads of free patterns online for different shapes, different occasions, and more complicated shapes to try. So I'd recommend having a look for different projects. Thank you.